White-collar crime, it sounds so sterile, so clean, like a freshly laundered shirt, ironed to perfection. But don't let the name fool you. This isn't about petty theft or street corner scams. This is about deceit on a grand scale, perpetrated by individuals in positions of power and trust. We're talking about CEOs, bankers, politicians, the folks who wear the fancy suits and smile for the cameras. And their crimes? They're anything but victimless. Think fraud, embezzlement, insider trading, money laundering. These crimes involve the manipulation of financial systems, the exploitation of legal loopholes, and a blatant disregard for the rules that govern us all. They leave a trail of devastation in their wake, wiping out savings, destroying businesses, and eroding public trust. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about real people, real lives, and real consequences. We need to shine a light on these practices, expose the perpetrators, and hold them accountable for their actions. The term white-collar crime might seem like a relatively recent invention, but its roots go back nearly a century. In 1939, sociologist Edwin Sutherland coined the phrase to describe crimes committed by individuals of respectability and high social status in the course of their occupations. This was a radical concept at the time, as crime was often associated with poverty, desperation, and a lack of opportunity. Sutherland, however, argued that crime was not limited to the lower classes. He recognized that individuals in positions of power, with access to wealth and resources, were just as capable of criminal behavior, if not more so. The term white-collar crime stuck, becoming a catch-all phrase for a range of financial crimes committed by individuals in positions of trust. It highlighted the disparity between the perception of these individuals as upstanding members of society and the reality of their actions. White-collar crime is not a monolithic entity, but rather a complex ecosystem of deceit. It encompasses a wide range of illegal activities, each with its own unique characteristics. Let's delve into some of the most prevalent forms of financial chicanery. Securities fraud. This involves manipulating the stock market through insider trading or spreading false information. Imagine a CEO whispering confidential information to a friend, allowing them to sell shares before the news goes public. Embezzlement occurs when someone in a position of trust misappropriates funds for personal gain. Picture this: you entrust your savings to a financial advisor, only to discover they've been siphoning off your money. Money laundering involves disguising the origins of illegally obtained money, making it appear legitimate. So how does the long arm of the law grapple with these cunning financial criminals? Well, it's a bit like trying to catch a greased piglet, slippery, frustrating, and often unsuccessful. White-collar crimes are often complex, requiring specialized knowledge and sophisticated investigative techniques to unravel. Prosecutors often face an uphill battle, needing to prove intent and establish a clear paper trail amidst a labyrinth of financial transactions. To combat these crimes, governments have enacted a range of laws and regulations. In the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, plays a crucial role in regulating the stock market and prosecuting securities fraud. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, also investigates various white-collar crimes, often working in conjunction with other agencies like the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, for tax evasion cases. Section 5. The psychology of white-collar criminality. Now, you might be wondering what drives individuals to commit these acts of financial deception. The motivations behind white-collar crime are complex and multifaceted, often stemming from a toxic cocktail of greed, ambition, and a sense of entitlement. These individuals often believe they are above the law, convinced of their own intelligence and ability to outsmart the system. They justify their actions through a distorted sense of morality, viewing themselves as victims of an unfair system or rationalizing their crimes as victimless. The allure of wealth and status can be a powerful motivator. Moreover, the corporate culture in certain industries can foster an environment where unethical behavior is not only tolerated, but encouraged. Section 6. Global hotspots of white-collar crime. Now let's turn our attention to the global stage. Where are these financial shenanigans most prevalent? Which countries top the charts in the white-collar crime Olympics? It's a tough question to answer definitively, as reliable data on white-collar crime is notoriously difficult to come by. Many of these crimes go unreported, and even when they are, they can be challenging to track and quantify. However, some countries consistently appear on the radar as havens for financial malfeasance. The United States, with its massive financial markets and complex regulatory environment, often finds itself in the spotlight. The UK, with its long history as a global financial center, also ranks high on the list. Section 7, a tale of two legal systems. Let's compare and contrast how different countries tackle this issue. The United States, for example, takes a prosecutorial approach, relying heavily on criminal charges and lengthy prison sentences to deter white-collar crime. Think of it as the lock 'em up and throw away the key approach. It's a system that prioritizes punishment over rehabilitation, and it's been criticized for its harshness and its disproportionate impact on marginalized communities. Across the pond, the UK has traditionally favored a more regulatory approach, focusing on preventing financial misconduct through robust oversight and hefty fines. However, critics argue that this approach lets individuals and corporations off too easily, allowing them to essentially buy their way out of trouble. Different countries have developed their own unique legal frameworks to address white-collar crime, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. Section 8. Bernie Madoff, the architect of illusion. Now let's put a face to this crime, shall we? Enter Bernie Madoff, the man who orchestrated the largest Ponzi scheme in history, bilking investors out of an estimated $65 billion. Madoff was the epitome of white-collar respectability. He was a Wall Street titan, a philanthropist, a man who seemed to have it all. But behind the facade of success lay a web of deceit so intricate, so audacious, that it defied belief. For decades, Madoff ran his investment firm like a giant game of three-card Monte, using money from new investors to pay off older ones while pocketing the rest. When the financial crisis hit in 2008, Madoff's house of cards came crashing down. Investors, desperate to recoup their losses, rushed to withdraw their money, only to discover that it was gone, vanished into thin air. Madoff's story serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of white-collar crime. Section 9. Eroding economic foundations. White-collar crime isn't just a personal tragedy, it's an economic wrecking ball. It undermines the very foundations of a healthy economy, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Think about it. When investors lose faith in the markets, when businesses collapse under the weight of fraud, when consumers are left holding the bag, the entire economy suffers. The cost of white-collar crime is staggering. It's estimated that these crimes cost the global economy trillions of dollars each year. White-collar crime erodes public trust in institutions, undermines confidence in the market, and stifles innovation and economic growth. Section 10. White-collar crime's global fallout. Now let's broaden our lens even further and look at the impact of white-collar crime on international relations. Because this isn't just a domestic issue, it's a global problem that demands a global response. When companies engage in bribery and corruption in developing countries, they undermine the rule of law and perpetuate inequality. Moreover, white-collar crime can fuel transnational organized crime, providing a financial lifeline to drug traffickers, arms dealers, and terrorist organizations. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that white-collar crime in one country can have ripple effects across the world. Section 11. A looming crisis, the price of inaction. So, what happens if we ignore this problem? What's the worst-case scenario if we just sit back and let these white-collar criminals run amok? Well, imagine a world where trust in institutions has completely eroded, where the financial system is rigged against the average person, and where the gap between the rich and the poor has become an unbridgeable chasm. As white-collar crime continues to rise, it threatens to undermine the very fabric of our society. It erodes our faith in the rule of law, fuels cynicism and distrust, and creates a climate of impunity where those in power believe they are above the law. We must act now to strengthen our legal systems, close loopholes, and hold white-collar criminals accountable for their actions. The future of our economy, our democracy, and our very way of life may depend on it. Section 12. Combating white-collar crime, a multifaceted approach. How do we tackle this behemoth of financial deception? There's no silver bullet, no magic wand. It requires a multi-pronged approach from governments, regulators, law enforcement, and the private sector. Strengthen laws, close loopholes, and increase penalties. It's about prevention too. Foster a culture of integrity and accountability. The fight won't be easy, but we can't afford to lose. Together, we can create a just and equitable society.